two worlds colliding for me, the Big 12, Ted McMillan, Arizona, and the Dallas Cowboys. That's a marriage made in heaven for the hype train here in Dallas, and as far as the Cowboys are concerned. Is there a possibility, I love that, by the way, but the Cowboys have so many needs. Is there a possibility that they move around in the first round?
Muench, you take this one.
Yeah, I mean, of course there is. This was going to be interesting because we have to tie the quarterback market into this, depending on how far Shedeur falls, what happens at 9 with the Saints, who's going to want to trade up and get a quarterback. Yeah, they could start moving around in that sense and pick up more picks. If they do stick at 12, that makes sense. Even though I think Todd and I both have Matthew Golden, the Texas receiver, ahead of Tet, he's probably a better fit for Dallas because when you're pairing him with CeeDee Lamb, you get that bigger body receiver. That makes some sense. But yeah, of course they can move around. The only issue I will say with all of this, and we've talked about this for a while now, is there is a drop after the Abdul Carter, the Travis Hunter, the Mason Grahams, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. After those guys, there's a little bit of a drop, and there's not much difference between a lot of different players. So getting someone to trade up, it's great. I mean, I think New England at 4 would love someone to come up and get someone so they can get more picks. But you have to find the dance partner. That's always the case.
I keep hearing from people in the league, and sometimes it's 9. Most of the time it's like 10 or 11. The difference between the player you're going to get at 11 and the player at 35 is not that big of a gap, okay? And you hear that, and it's like, yeah, I get it, but like I like this. But at the end of the day, like I was just going through my rankings again last night, and I'm like, you know what? There kind of isn't. Yes, obviously I'm ranking it, but I got a bunch of 9, like we're on a 100 scale, draft grades. Like I've got just a couple 95s, a couple 3 94s or 94s and 93s. And that's like you just mentioned, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Ashton Ginty, running back from Boise State, Tyler Warren, the tight end, Mason Graham from Michigan. That's like the 5. Then Jalen Walker would be in right behind them. Cam Ward. Okay. So now we're down to like seven players. Then there's a few more that you're like, yeah, these guys are different than the rest. But then you get to like 11 or 12, whatever it is. And I've got a bunch of 91s, 90s, and 89 grades, like a bunch. And down to about 35, 37. Okay. So to answer, and it's running parallel with what Muench just said. I outside of the quarterbacks, or maybe an edge rusher, I don't see where our team's going to be like, yeah, I want to move up and give away because there's a bunch of starters I can get in rounds 2 and rounds 3 this year. But Dallas specifically, I do like that fit. I have problems with Ted McMillan when you start to dig in, like the practice habits, the attention to detail, the not finishing routes. I see the physical traits with in terms of like being a big X, having that kind of basket. For him, it's volleyball. For Drake London, it was basketball. I see the comparisons physically in the acrobatic catches and a little bit of the run after catch. I don't see the same dog in those two guys. And that's the kind of the concern. But when he was with Jed Fish, and as one scout said to me the other day, and Jed had his foot on his throat, he was great.
Yeah.
But then it was a new program, new quarterback. Accountability wasn't the same. So what are you going to get when you remember Schottenheimer gave us this advice like 100 years ago, Seuss. The hardest part about scouting, remember, we were just pups. And I remember him saying this, the hardest part about scouting is figuring out when a human being gets more money, fame, and free time than he's ever had before. So those are all the factors that kind of have to go into it.